Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Garage Gym Athlete Podcast. I'm your host, Jared Moon. The Garage Gym Athlete Podcast is a result of my desire to build better humans, unequivocal coaches, and autonomous athletes. I've spent the last several years obsessing over program design, nutrition, and every other way you can optimize human performance. This podcast distills the latest scientific research with what I've learned and blends it with the not-so-scientific field of mental toughness. We are here to build you into a dangerously effective athlete. If you enjoy this podcast, you can find out more about our training at garagegymathlete.com. And if you want to pursue more into the field of coaching and programming, head to endof3fitness.com. Thanks for listening. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Garage Gym Athlete Podcast. Jared Moon here with Ashley Hicks. How's it going?
Good morning.
Kyle Schrum.
Hello.
And Joe Courtney. How you doing, man?
I don't know how they say hello here in Bahrain, but I'm just going to say hello.
Hello.
I think you nailed it.
Hello, Moto. Yeah.
So let's start with you, man in the future. I like to hear what's going on in the future first.
I think I had an Ashley moment last week.
Uh-oh.
Where after, no, it's a good one. It's one of your good moments. So after the podcast, Jared said he got the True Form. So then it was a kind of FOMO like, man, I kind of wish I had a True Form to use here. And 2 days later, we went to the gym and went to a different section because they have everything kind of spread out. So we went to the upstairs portion. And Liz and I were doing a long bike that day, and just being on the bike, being bored, looking around, I saw that right behind me to the diagonally, it was there's two Rogue Echo bikes. I was like, that's freaking awesome that there's more Echo bikes here. And then I saw a person on a flat treadmill with like the treads. So like it was a softer impact one. So it was like a really good brand. And I was like, man, if they have those, I wonder if they have. And I kept looking around, like tucked away in the corner behind a pillar. I saw the curve and I was like, yes. So right when the bike was finished, I jumped off the bike and went over to the True Form and just started walking on it just to see how it was. And I really felt like a hamster on a wheel. It's super weird.
Walking is harder than running on a True Form.
That's what I found out today. So I
you have to walk kind of heel to toe.
Yeah.
When walking, but then running you have to do forefoot. So yeah.
Yeah. And even if you like walk an extra inch further, then it's going to go really fast, and you feel like you're just going to face plant. But running, it's just like, okay, I'll just step a bit quicker. So I actually did a workout on it today. We had conditioning day and strength, and it was very interesting to get used to. It's like sometimes I was trying to run, and then I guess just zoning out, I would drift back a little bit, and then I'd start to go really slow because it would just stop. The treads would stop. It's like, okay, so they like really concentrate and really like calibrate yourself and how you align with it. There was also quarter mile sprints or runs, and those were kind of cool to play with. And it's also nice because you can switch the increments to 400 to meters. So that was really cool. So I got to use a True Form because I wished it and I willed it.
And it happened. It appeared. That's amazing.
You can too. So
I actually have a podcast.
Yeah, right. We'll just keep on doing it. So
maybe my turn will come someday.
Yeah. How do you find the distance and the pacing on the True Form compared to like running outside?
Like, just what is my opinion of it?
Like, is your pacing about the same as what you would run outside, or?
It's slower.
Yeah.
So I calibrated my Garmin to the True Form, and I had to do a couple. So I have a lot more. I have probably like 5 training sessions on the True Form since we last spoke. And I've got it pretty dialed in, but I've also calibrated my Garmin to try and look at pace and where it can also track my runs and everything. But it's quite different because I've done a couple of sprint workouts on it, especially when I couldn't make it to the track last week. I did basically sprint intervals. So we're talking like 500 meters, 300 meters, 200 meters, like pretty fast intervals. And my pacing just didn't seem right to me because I'm running as hard as I can. And it's like, it's telling me I'm running like a 6:15, 6:20 mile pace, which no, like absolutely not. Not for running. Like, your pace for a 300 meter shouldn't be a 6-minute mile. And then, so it was off. And then when I go to the track, my watch picks it up more accurately, and it's like, oh yeah, you're running a 4:30 pace for a 200 or whatever. So that makes sense, and it's more accurate. But fact of the matter is, I just feel like the pacing is off. I don't feel like I'm actually going any slower. You can still run as hard as you can run on these things, and it feels the same. But that's kind of what I've found so far.
Yeah. So I know the quarter mile was really close because my Garmin calibrated too. So that was like right at a quarter. But then like these 10-minute intervals, they were completely off. They were like a half mile off or something. So a little unfortunate, but not a huge.
Are you talking about your Garmin was off from what the TrueForm was saying?
No, the TrueForm was off because there's no way I jogged for 10 minutes and didn't even reach a mile. That's just not a thing.
Oh.
I can do a zone 2 mile under 10 minutes.
Oh, if you're just talking about actual distance, I was talking about more of like how it feels. But
well, yeah, both.
It's within 0.01 to 0.02 of a mile within accuracy on mine. It's very close, very, very close between the Garmin and the TrueForm.
Yeah, I don't know how they calibrated mine. The brand that they have here is a Woodway, which I looked up, and they are like twice as expensive as a TrueForm.
Yeah, I've heard of those.
But yeah, there was that. There was something else I just completely forgot. As per usual.
Well, we can't come back, so we'll just have to wait till next week.
Bye-bye. Okay, I'll just write it down when I get to
it. Ashley, how's life?
Life's good. We just came off a 3-day weekend, so it was a lot of fun. It's always nice when Scott's here, and I don't know. It's just like an extra day to play and do stuff, and it's always nice to have extra hands to help out with Connor too. So we just had a particularly great weekend. So yeah, life is really good. Health update. So I went to my appointment, and it was a lot of bit different than what I thought it was going to be. But basically, my pathology report is inconclusive, and so I showed up at my appointment hoping that I'd get answers and know what to do next. And not unfortunately, going to get a second opinion. So it's just like the emotional roller coaster of the day. And that day I also got rear-ended too. So it was just like one of those things where it was like, I got some shocking news, and then, it just ended on kind of a weird note that day. But anyways, so the end of this month, I'll have another fine needle aspiration, so another biopsy. So another needle in the neck, but it'll be okay. And then I'll have the follow-up in the beginning of November, and then hopefully the results will be more conclusive, and we'll go from there. But yeah, that's my big health update. But a fun update, I finally got my new planner in. Last year I did... I still use Emily Lay. Emily Lay is my favorite planner. The Simplified Planner is my favorite planner, but she has a Dapper Desk one. And just because her planners are so bright and florally and they're very girly, and that's cool. It's just not me. I like kind of simple. So I went with her Dapper Desk, and I just didn't like it because it didn't lay flat. So moral of the story
didn't lay flat.
It didn't lay flat. It's huge. That is huge for me. So I can write everything down, and I've even tried to stray. I've done other planners, and I always come back to it. And it's expensive, but it's worth it. So anyways, my new planner is in, and I've been writing everything down in it, and I love it. So
not Emily Lay.
It is Emily Lay. And I just sucked it up, and basically I have this bright floral goodness.
Oh, good. Yeah.
That's super girly.
So, because the year's running out, I wrote down Emily Lay planner, and then when you said that thing, I crossed it out. So.
Yeah, no.
He's like, nope.
And nope.
Not for a dude. I was trying to think of like a simple planner for a dude that would be. Scott.
How many planners I've abandoned is basically wasted money on is absurd. So I'm
impressed that I'm still using this one, even though I went for about 4 or 5 months when I didn't have an office, that I just didn't even bother with it.
The only thing I really use anymore is just it's one of those like 8.5 by 11, like normal piece of paper size. And it's just the month laid out across 2 pages. And it's just the 12 months of the year. That's it. Like that's the only thing that I use consistently to know, like to put dates on a calendar somewhere.
I have to like have a list of things I want to do that day. Check it off. Makes me feel good.
I do that too, but I just do that on paper.
Oh, okay. Well, then there you go. I did the Best Self. Was it Best Self? Is that the one?
I like that one. Yeah, I've used that.
No,
that one I've used like
me out.
I used for a while, but it it was becoming more time consuming to use it than, which is bad. If it's like, oh, this planner's taking me 2 hours per week to utilize, that's a little much, you know? Cool. Yeah, I could talk planners all day, but we don't have to. Kyle, what's up?
Well, I don't have a new planner, so sorry for missing out on that one. I actually don't have a planner. I just keep all my stuff digitally. I just use my phone or my laptop and keep everything put together there.
Old school.
Or
wait.
Maybe a Post-it note in a pinch.
No school.
Yeah, no school. That sounds more like me anyway. All right. Anyway, so big update. My boy Carter turned 4 over the weekend. So big birthday. And yesterday we had some new friends come in town, and we went on a hike and up Lookout Mountain, which is a big mountain here in Chattanooga. It's not like a big mountain, but it's the biggest one around here. Anyway, really cool hiking trail. And my 4-year-old hiked for over 3 miles yesterday. Like he walked the whole thing, which I thought was really, really cool. So that was a fun little long weekend. Well, not really a long weekend. Like they're on fall break this week. So it's like a whole week of fun activities that we're going to get into. Funtivities. So we started off the
like
week
an
with
East Coast-ish thing, this fall break.
Because Texas never does it.
Texas does not have a fall break.
Yeah.
I wonder if your Christmas break is bigger.
Or we just go to
how
school
long is
more
your
and take
Christmas
less
break?
time off.
I don't even think Maryland did have a fall break. We just had the regular 3-day weekends and Thanksgiving. Because we start school a lot later in Maryland.
Hey, I don't complain about it. Like I like having Hannah at home. So
Back in
breaks
my
in
day,
school.
Thanksgiving was a solid week. But, now they cut it
I
down.
think we just get Thanksgiving Day off now. And
Really?
then go back to school on Friday. No,
Oh,
I'm kidding.
my gosh. Oh, man.
Anyway, that was fun. That's my update.
Well, congratulations for making 4 years, dude. That's
I know.
it's like my
That's-
new thing now. I'm just gonna wish a parent like
I was going to say, is that like more of a
Happy
celebratory
survival.
parent?
yeah.
Yeah.
If anything,
it
you
is.
should,
Yeah.
I think, whatever age they start to go to school, it's when you should really celebrate. I guess 4 would be it if they're pre-K. But
I celebrate that he made it another year, and I think I'm going to do that forever.
every year.
I think
I
that's,
think that's what they call a birthday.
yeah, it's called a birthday. It's kind of built in.
Yeah, I made him. Well, I just mean that my parenting didn't like ruin his life. Over
Oh,
the
that
last
takes
year.
decades
He made
to
it
find
another-
out.
Yeah,
You got to wait till he's like
You're like, oh,
35. Then you can just determine how your parenting went.
Well, I'll celebrate till he's 35 and then reassess.
Then you're just like, not my problem.
Don't blame me for everything. Goodness. All right. How's BCT going, Kyle?
I am loving it.
I want to hear an update. You haven't said anything about it. And I just want to know how you're doing.
I'm doing really well. Like, I wish that we had had this track a long time ago. Actually, this is like a dream track for me. I'm not being sarcastic either. I really
With
enjoy
the
it.
running too?
Yeah, even with the running. Yeah,
He's actually faster than, and you guys have seen it. You if you just listen to Kyle on the podcast, you're like, not a good runner because he says he hates running all this stuff. But he's shown us some of his pacing for like 5-mile runs and stuff. He's no slouch.
Well, I got to try to keep up with everybody too. But anyway, if I'm going to do it, I feel like I'm going to go all out. But yeah, I'm enjoying it. And I really it's really simple. Lots of squats, which I enjoy. And I did get the lifting shoes, which we talked about a long time ago on the podcast. And I had never tried them before. And huge difference for me. Really, I think that's playing into me enjoying it as much as I am. Is I'm just in a better position, just feel better doing the squats, and especially squats in this much volume. It's been a real big help. So yeah, I'm enjoying it.
Do you have a
Strength
certain
track.
time?
Embracing the DOMs.
Strength track for 2 years. You've been training your whole life for this. You know?
I know, right?
All right. Well, I will give an update. The BCT track is killing me. So that's
I don't think anybody's quit this past week that I've noticed.
I called that person out to everyone else, not to them. I didn't mean it in a bad way. I was just like, we have one quitter, and everyone was like, "Oh crap! Well, I'm not going to quit
Can't
now."
quit now.
Can't quit.
I'm going to be called out on the podcast. They won't know it's me, but I know it's me.
Yeah, people are just going to sign up for Garage Gym Athlete under a new name and email address and be like, "I'll just leave that guy on that track."
I'm paying twice. I don't care.
Yeah.
Well, I asked him too. I was like, who's committed? Because Jared, you and I were talking about it, like who's committed for the year or who's committed just for a cycle or something. And so I asked that to the group as well. And I think we got like some crickets. They were like, oh, wait, which one am I doing? Am I doing a cycle or doing a year? So,
yeah, some people were in for 12 weeks. Some people were in for a year. I'm in for a year, obviously. And we'll see how things go, which kind of segues into my update. So I go to the track. I'm going to try to go. I'm moving my days around. So Sundays are going to be track days for the foreseeable future. It's just less going on Sundays, like for sports and stuff. So I can actually run on the track. It's pretty much open all day on Sundays, and the weather's going to be a lot nicer. But man, I've been on the true form so much. And just for people wondering about the difference between true form running and track sprinting, the true form's great because it doesn't beat your body up. And the pacing, I said, was a little bit slower, but it's close enough. You're still getting the stimulus that you want and you're working. But a track day, like I'm never sore after running on the true form running. After true form, I'm never sore. But the track just destroys my legs. Like I'm sore for a solid like day, 2 days after sprinting on a track versus the same workout on the true form. So there definitely is a huge difference in, let's just say, a treadmill in general and running on a track. That's why I have to get to a track at least once a week. It's just so apparent that you run. Yeah, I don't know if you're running any faster. It's just, I think there's more impact, something. It's just different. It's very different. And I feel like
that I forgot. It just actually goes with what you were saying.
Oh yeah, let's jump back to Joe. Okay.
Yeah, well, it goes along with the impact and stuff. I have tendonitis in my Achilles, so when I run, it takes a crap ton of time for me to like my Achilles to warm up. I have to smash them or do whatever. I didn't do any of that today on the true form, and there was no pain. So my Achilles didn't hurt at all going for a jog and running on the true form, which was crazy to me.
That's awesome. Yeah, I haven't noticed anything otherwise, like other than I'm less sore. I think that's a good thing, though. I'm not. I think less impact when I'm trying to put in more volume with running is going to be good. But just my last track day was this past Sunday, so a few days ago, and I'll just keep saying it until I feel differently. A 5-minute mile seems absolutely impossible. It just does not seem doable. And I've even ran close. So my fastest mile time is 5:12, and I'm starting to debate whether or not that was a real mile. I'm like, wait a minute. Cause it was like 8 or 9 years ago. I'm like, was it really a mile? Did you do 3 laps instead of 4?
Well, we know you were 9 meters short. So
yeah, I was about to say, did you throw that extra 9 meters in there?
Yeah. So 5:14, let's just add it on there. But anyway, it seems literally impossible just because I'll run like let's say a 700 meter, which I know it's an odd distance, but 700 meters, and I'll keep a 5:15 pace for the mile. We're at 700 meters. That's not as fast as I need to go. And I also feel like death at the end of it. So that's why it feels impossible. I need to go 15 seconds faster and more than double the distance. So,
but are you doing that for intervals, or is that just like one time you run 700 meters at that pace?
Intervals, multiple times. Yeah.
So, I mean, that makes sense.
Well, one lap, I'm good. I mean, I could go sub 60 on one lap, but then what do you do after that?
I know.
So it's funny. I saw, so I forgot his name, his last name Klink. He's the guy, he's like the first guy we know of who did the 500-pound back squat, 5-minute mile. But then there was this other dude. I was just like looking on YouTube. I'm trying to find out who else has done it, if anybody. This other guy had been training for it for a long time, and Klink did it 2 weeks before he had planned to do it. And so he came out with a YouTube video too, and he's done it as well. But the reason this guy is so fascinating to me, I don't know any of his background. I don't even know his name. You guys can find it because there's only like 2 people on the internet who have done it at least. He did a 64 second on his first lap. So a minute 4, which is just like, I'm sure, I mean, he's got plenty of training, right? Like to be able to actually achieve it, but too fast out of the gate, 100%. He went way too fast. I thought he was going to die. Just watching the video, I was like, dude, you just ran 64 second and you have 3 more laps. Like, let's see what happens. He did it, but man, it was brutal. He threw up afterwards and stuff. It was pretty bad. But anyway, it seems impossible. But the reason I like to update you in a very honest way is because if I achieve it, cool. I like to go back and see how I felt through the training, but it's awful. But if you do want an update on the training, go to our YouTube channel. I'm trying to do updates on the BCT track in general once a month at a minimum. We just posted the first one, kind of giving you an update on equipment I'm using, nutrition, training, all that kind of stuff. And then if you got whatever you guys want to see, so go to YouTube and check that out. And that's it. That's all I got for updates.
How's your back?
Oh, my back is good. That was, I don't know. I'm fine.
Well, good.
I am focusing a lot on recovery, which, speaking of, is my new routine. That's what I was going to say. What is my new nightly routine? It's not every night because I have soccer practices and football games and all this stuff to go to, but I turn my sauna on, which takes 30 minutes to get to temperature. I then hop on my bike erg. I do 15 minutes of zone 2. Then I get off the bike erg and I do 15 minutes of ROMWOD, or mobility or stretching in general, either a set routine or just something myself. Then I get into the sauna for 15 minutes. So 45-minute routine. I did that 3 times this past week. And that's how serious I am about my recovery right now. Because the only thing that can stop this whole thing is an injury. Like I'm not going to train with injury. Mm-hmm. And so I'm trying to be on top of my recovery as much as I can. But training is slowly consuming my life. And that's fine because it's something I enjoy. But that's my new routine. You guys ask me what I do at night. That's it.
It's a lot of showers.
Dude, I take so many showers every day. It's excessive.
It's a good thing you're a dude and it only takes like 3 minutes to shower.
Yeah. All right, let's get into the study. The name of the study, low load resistance training to volitional failure induces muscle hypertrophy similar to volume matched velocity fatigue, by Terada et al. 2020, so done this year. So I'll just go over the why and the how real quick, and then we can get into what our thoughts were of it and takeaway for the Garage Gym Athlete. But the purpose of the study was to compare the effects of low load training to failure, low load non-failure training, and high load training. They were looking at muscle swelling, blood lactate responses, and changes in muscle size, strength, endurance, and power. They had 27 young male subjects who were recreationally active but not resistance trained. So officially, the 3 groups were performing high-load training at 80% of 1 rep max for sets of 8 reps. This is all bench press, right? Yeah, bench press. Low-load training, so 40% of 1 rep max to failure, and then low-load training with each set being terminated once the subjects reached a particular velocity loss threshold. And then the conclusion of the study, it grows muscle is what is the easiest way I'm going to try and put it without having to read all these different things. But the official is low load volitional failure and low load velocity fatigue showed enhanced acute responses and greater chronic endurance gains, but lower chronic strength gains than heavy lifting. In conclusion, low load resistance training to volitional failure induces muscle hypertrophy similar to volume matched velocity fatigue. And so that's why I didn't want to read all that, but they grow muscle. All 3 of them do, but if you want to get stronger, lift heavy stuff. That's kind of the takeaway from the conclusion of the study. What do you guys have on any of this stuff?
One thing I really liked that the study did that I think brought up like conceptually before reviewing things was that they had the failure group and then the non-failure group. The way that they determine non-failure, sub-failure, whatever, not to failure is when their velocity failed. And that was really cool.
I thought it was awesome.
whatever they said that the app they use, so you can test it on yourself, but like you would need somebody to tell you, okay, you're below the 80% of what you're failing, so you're done. But if there's a way to put it up on a screen or something, I think that's really cool for training if that can be expanded on. Because that's how it wasn't like a full-on breakdown, you can't lift anymore, or thinking of failure. Because another point they brought up was there's failure and then there's perceived failure, to where you don't think you can. Might just be hard for you. But velocity failure I think was a really cool concept.
Yeah, and it was similar. Hypertrophy was similar between the two, like going to failure or going close to failure, or velocity failure. It was similar.
Yeah, volume was like a ton more, but like the benefits weren't super different, which is kind of interesting. This was another study where they didn't have very experienced people, so they had no resistance training, which I thought was, why are you going to have people doing things to failure if they don't have resistance training? And the recreational athlete was kind of funny. There wasn't. It was kind of cool to see all that stuff, and I'll just let everybody else take some points round robin.
So that was kind of something that I took away from it too, was that you get with the low loads, with both low load groups, you get similar hypertrophy. So if that's what you're going for, and something that stuck out to me was going to failure versus not going to failure. But still high reps. Like, we don't recommend, like, if you're training by yourself, like, we don't really want you going to failure very often, right? Especially with what they were testing bench press. Like, if you're by yourself, please don't be going to failure on bench press. Like, we don't need you doing that, right? And so this kind of showing that you could get similar hypertrophy without going all the way to failure at low loads. I thought that was interesting, and it's something that we could take away, where you could get similar results without having to go all the way.
So for this, also the strength that it talked about, the higher load obviously gained the most strength, and that makes sense to me. So what I took away from this was just basically the tracks that we do. So shred track is going to be more hypertrophy. You're going to have potentially lower loads with, higher reps. So for something like this, you have to know what your workout goal is, right? So for me, it's like, am I going to lift heavier because I want to get stronger, or do I need to, shed a little weight and, when I want to see that muscle growth, or, kind of shed that fat and just get that lean muscle in. But that's what the study made me think of, is just every different track that we have that has a targeted goal, is kind of in line with this.
It's funny. It reminds me of my first workout, maybe ever. Officially, like more of a like weightlifting type workout and stuff, not like in football early on or anything like that. Before I got on a program, I had no idea what to do, and my dad had this old crappy bench press in our garage. I'm talking like real crappy. It's like those weights. They're like plastic on the outside. I think they're like concrete on the inside. Or something.
Yeah.
And they're real small. Anyway, and we also we had like lost half the weights and moves and stuff. And so I literally had no idea what to do. I just knew I wanted to start working out. And so it's hilarious looking back on it. I wish I had videos of this. I would get on the bench press and I would bench to failure, because it wasn't super heavy. I mean, it was not like I was super strong either, but I would just bench to failure. And I mean complete failure, to where I would tip the weight off every time. So I would tip it, the weight would slide off the left side and then fall violently off to the right, because the right side's still loaded. And that was like my plan. Like I'd put it all back together, and then I would do my second set the same way. I would just lift till I got to absolute failure, violently let the weights fall off the barbell, and just keep doing that for my sets of bench press. So it's effective. It can work. It's not what we recommend. But my main takeaway, and I feel like my takeaway for the Garage Gym Athlete with this study, is the magic of the training is in the stimulus it induces for you specifically. And that's what I want everyone to take away, because what they found out was, if you want to get heavier, you need to lift heavy weight. So the heavy load absolutely trumped the other two as far as getting stronger. But if you're talking about building muscle, then it looks like you can go to you could go to velocity failure, or you could just go to the type of failure, mental failure, if you want to call it that, to where you don't want to go anymore. And it's going to work, but you're going to have to feel that to be able to see results. Like all the programming we use is based on research and data that says, hey, this set and rep scheme at these intensities should induce this response, because we're giving you our best hypothesis for what we want to achieve in our programming. But if I tell Ashley to go back squat 8 reps at 80%, and for some reason that's just super easy for her, then she's not going to see a lot of benefit from that training. She might maintain her strength, but if she was like, I did the 8 reps at 80%, it was no challenge, then that becomes problematic. Either her 1 rep max is off, or she just, and actually this is true of a lot of females, like their 1 rep max and their 10 rep maxes are normally similar. And I feel like you guys can just grind and withstand more pain than men can. And so I think that's what you have to take away from all this is it's what do you feel? Is when I want it to be heavy for you in the programming, does it feel heavy? Great. If I need this to be a muscle burning activity, is that what you feel? Or did you do 10 reps and you didn't really feel anything? Because there's no magic in 10 repetitions. There's only magic in what you're feeling, during and after those repetitions based off of what we're trying to induce. So I think that's the big takeaway.
Yeah, I think another takeaway that I had was, since the failure or the velocity failure groups were so similar, I think taking things to failure can be detrimental as well, because once you get to failure, you just want to get the weight up no matter how you're doing it. So that's when your form gets shot. That's when you're leaning one way or the other just to get something moving. And then if you do that enough, then you're going to develop bad habits when you actually want to max out or lift something else, and you're going to either hurt yourself or just you're not working what you need. So if you keep to velocity failure to, sub, not quite failure, but you can still concentrate on good form and the areas that you want to lift anyway. So and you're still going to get that same benefit.
And that's something we do a lot of too. And especially with Marco would endure this cycle, he's making sure you're going to form failure, when you can no longer perform the rep with perfect form, then that's when you stop. And so I think that's kind of our version of the velocity failure, since we can't track that.
And that's when I posted my 410 pound back squat, you guys saw it and people in the group saw it, and it looked, some were saying it looked easy. Like I could go heavier, right? But it's also part of that is because I'm not going to let my back cave. I'm not going to let my knees dive in. And I know that's what happens next, because honestly, if you would have thrown on 415, I could have absolutely failed. But what I wouldn't allow is this ridiculous form breakdown. And so that I feel like that's why some of my lifts look easier at times, because the other option is what Joe's saying, is get it up any way freaking possible. And maybe when I go for 500, I'll let that happen. If it's going to take that kind of battle to get that 1 rep, I'll do it. But I'm not going to have all these sacrifices in form to lift a weight that doesn't really matter. You know what I mean? So I think it's very important. This form failure idea that Marco is introducing the EndurTrack to is very important. Cool. So, yeah. How does it feel? That's my takeaway. Joe, what's the topic this week?
I'm surprised you guys didn't ask before, so I'm curious to see if you guys even know what I'm talking about, or how
I looked at the topic and then I saw your response, since you were the person who picked the topic, and I was like, okay, I get it. So I got it. I used context clues to figure it out.
So, yeah, if you notice my notes, I was like,
yeah,
I don't know. I don't know what you want.
Cool. So yeah, I was just thinking one day when I was on the rower, what are some good skills to have? I might have been seeing somebody do something really janky or weird, but what are some good skills you think people should have, could learn in general?
I feel like this is like a CrossFit-ish type thing, right? It's like CrossFit is like, I got to do the workout and then I got to do my 15 minutes of skill work after the workout. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, I have some other ones that are a bit more beneficial in general than, like a muscle up is going to be, but
no, I agree. I just,
yeah,
that's what it made me think of when you mentioned skills.
But for people that do want skill work, do those in warm-ups. Great thing to do for a warm-up. But Ashley, since you have several options. What you got?
I don't want to say one of them because Jared's gonna. That's CrossFit. I'm just kidding. I'll talk about pistols first. So there were a few movements after Connor that I just wrote on here that my body acted like I had never done. And I remember we had pistols, and I go to do a pistol, and like my quad just like seized, and I couldn't even do it. And so I tried on the other side, and it did the exact same thing. So I started with just going down to a bench, but not necessarily sitting on the bench. Like I would have my butt touch the bench and then come up. So that way I'm still controlling down as well as controlling up. I've seen people like hold on to something to kind of keep themselves balanced. But so I've been working on pistols. I'm almost there. I can get to at least parallel. I like to kind of bounce at the bottom to get down and up. But anyway, so that's something I've been working on since having Connor, and that's 2 years ago, so I don't know, my body just kind of like, what was this movement? Like, I don't even understand what you want me to do now. But another thing I work on for like balance and control as well as core is I really like to do handstands. I was never a gymnast. I'm not good at any gymnastic movements. And so I like to play with stuff that I'm not good at. And I like handstands, if that's weird. I like wall walks. I like, so I do a lot of, I'll kick up and I do a lot of shoulder touches. I'll do a lot of single arm work. I'll even do work where my head is already on the mat and I just kind of pike my legs and then bring my legs towards the wall and then slowly work my legs up and then kind of push up to work on more strict movement. So I think handstands are fun for a lot of different reasons. And then if it's just like something I need to do extra of, like I'll run or I'll do core. I love both of those things are my jam. I love core stuff and I love to run because soccer player. So I guess I'll always like to run, but yeah.
I guess I go next. Okay. I put any balance work, kind of like what Ashley was saying, working on things that you're not good at, working on things that you don't know that you're not good at until you try them. We've been doing stuff like this too in the program and doing like single leg. One thing that comes to mind is like a single leg kettlebell deadlift. And so trying to balance on that one foot while you're lowering the kettlebell down and things like that. And you find out, okay, my right leg's pretty good on balance. And then you go to the left leg and it's like, what is happening? And so your body just kind of starts, rebelling against you. And so it can be humbling and frustrating. And so, but it also, for me, it constantly gives me something to work on, like things that I do a lot of, I can feel really confident in those things. But then you start doing this balance work, you start doing this individual, accessory stuff. And then you're like, oh wait, there's still a whole lot of stuff that I can work on. And so just kind of never being bored in the gym as well. Always finding stuff like that. But I also put, odd object work, which I just kind of like to do, like tire flips. I know not everybody has a tire, but you should go get one. They're really fun. Doing stuff like that or doing like heavy carries. I think it's pretty well known around here that I enjoy carrying heavy things. And so, either farmer's carries or doing some kind of sandbag work or something like that. It's just, especially maybe not the tire flips as much, but the heavy carries, like that just kind of translates to life. And so to me, it's a way to use my fitness in real life as well. Like sometimes you have to pick things up and carry them for a distance, maybe not a super long distance, but you have to carry it for a certain amount of time. And like that hike that we went on yesterday, we got one of those child carrier backpacks. And so, for over 3 miles, I had our 2-year-old on my back, and that maybe doesn't seem like such a great feat to some people, but like for me to be able to walk that long, and carry her, and I was fine at the end of it, I still could have carried her, much, much further than that, if I had to. But just doing stuff like that, that's just kind of fun and just kind of different and just always having something to work on and keep things spicy. That's what I enjoy doing too.
Spines might be a bit abstract because it's not a specific skill, but I think I'm surprised that either of you said it, but it'll kind of go along with like double unders because that's a very specific skill. But footwork in general, I think, is fantastic to learn it and get down. And for those of us who are athletes growing up, it just kind of comes naturally. But it's also a muscle that if you're not playing sports, you don't really flex anymore either. So it really helps to get back into it. And doing footwork and foot-eye and hand-eye coordination will help with so many different aspects and everything that you might do, because sometimes we try and program very simple things, but sometimes we do a little bit more complicated things. And like doing even though it's not quite footwork, a plate jump, some people that have never done it are really going to struggle on those. But footwork in general, when I was staying in Baltimore at my brother's, across the street was a turf field. And because I had the turf field access, I was doing all kinds of footwork. I was doing sideways running, karaoke's, backwards running, barefoot stuff because of ankle stability, because of moving things unilaterally or laterally and stuff like that. And just kind of echoes on what you guys were talking about, balance and unilateral movements are so important and so great for you, but there's also great skills to be had with it. And I think getting your feet dialed in order, and it might give you more confidence for, like, say, box jumps and other movements. And if you improve your ankles and your footwork and such, double unders could possibly become easier for you as well. And even, you might even surprise yourself with running.
When you say footwork, I always think of that ladder that you roll out like on a field or on something, and like, in, out, in, out, in, out, or the side shuffle or whatever. Yeah. I mean, that definitely works too. I had one, like a little square thing. I didn't really do it. I was just doing running stuff, but I probably should have done that more, especially because I have weak ankles. It's just weird.
Track running helps. My ankles are so sore I think it's just running in general. So the skills I went with, balance, I completely agree. I think you guys are, you all kind of mentioned it in some way, shape, or form. Balance is huge, and I primarily use the slack line for that at this point. I don't do a lot of other stuff. I do the slack line a couple times per week. It's just like permanently set up in my backyard now. So
it's hard.
I get on there and I'll walk back and forth a couple times. Sometimes I throw it in my warm up. So I really enjoy the slack line. I think it helps a ton with balance, proprioception, but I do think just coordination in general. I feel like I see adults getting less coordinated over time, and I'm not talking about like old either. I'm talking about like other dads I see like trying to throw football with their kids and stuff, getting slightly less coordinated. So learn how to juggle. Learn how to like keep throwing a ball with your kids, like things like that, just things that are going to keep your coordination in check. And then I think a majority of how I do all the stuff that you're talking about, Joe, I don't go to a track and like, run sideways and backwards and do karaoke's, but I play legitimate soccer and football with my kids. And so I don't just go outside and play catch. I am trying to break their ankles with a juke every time I play with them. And I also am trying to make them as good as they could possibly be if they want to be athletes. So I want it for them to be impossible to catch me. I want to spin around them, all these kind of things. But they're 8 and 6, and they can already beat me in soccer if they team up. So I'm not doing a great job. But anyway, that's how I do a lot of that stuff now. And I do think it's really helpful in keeping me athletic. Not that the training won't, but that's what I wanted to hit on. Like Kyle and I are in this BCT track. We're trying to get really good at either running in a circle or a straight line and lifting one lift. So the potential for imbalances right now, huge, very high, which means that once you get unbalanced, you get injured. And so that's, if you're following any other track, you don't see that as much. And that's also why we do body geometry every 4th week of our programming, because we want to see the different planes of movement, different exercises that are a little bit crappy. Was it Kyle? You mentioned the single leg deadlift, stuff like that. So you're going to see a lot more stuff. So that's why we program in body geometry. BCT will have that as well next week during our deload. But I think other than the activities we talked about with balance and coordination, just making sure if you don't follow our programming, you are seeing those different planes of movement and those different muscle contractions, and not just doing, basically two things all the time, like I lift and I run or whatever. It's a great recipe for disaster, and it's not something I'm naive to, and we'll always look at in our programming, make sure that we're not creating any recipes for injury. But BCT is getting close, and so we'll have to have some body geo next week to balance things out. But yeah, those are kind of my anything that's going to keep you coordinated.
I would say that helps keep your ego in check too, because it's kind of like I said, you start doing balance work and you realize how bad you are at it. And then you're like, wow, there's something else that I need to work on. Like I thought I was pretty solid. And you can be really solid in a lot of areas, but then you have other things that still need to keep working. So just always kind of keeping focused and keeping the right mindset as well. I think it can help with that too.
Well, that's what's weird. This goes back to several CrossFit games long ago when I still paid attention to CrossFit stuff, but the Jason Khalipa softball throw. I don't know if you guys remember that, but there was a softball throw in the CrossFit games. Hilarious, right? So
yeah, so softball is CrossFit officially. That means anything you do with the CrossFit games is CrossFit.
So I don't remember which games. It was pretty early on, and they took a softball and they would just see who could throw it the furthest. They never did that again or anything close to it because of how embarrassing it was for most of those athletes to throw a ball. Rich Froning was like the only person who was good at it, and that's because he played baseball like his whole life. But just because you're good at exercising doesn't mean, and these guys, they can walk on their hands for like hundreds of meters at a time, right? They have these other skills, but their coordination still off, like just not quite there. So you have to practice all these other things. So the only reason I bring that up is not to make fun of these previous CrossFit Games athletes, but these are some of the fittest humans in the world, apparently really well balanced, can't throw a ball. So I think you have to try new things. I think Glassman was even one who said it, regularly try new sports or whatever, something like that. So I do think you have to do all these other things to stay well-rounded. Cool. I'm going to quickly give my brief of this workout. So we're getting into the harder to kill 5 miler, and it's kind of complicated. It's almost a 4-minute brief, which is odd. It's already like, oh gosh. So there's a lot. So I'm just going to tell you the short of it. The harder to kill 5 miler is 5 miles of intervals, 400-meter intervals. And the first mile, you go fast at a certain pace. The second mile, you go a little bit slower. Third mile, fast. Fourth mile, a little bit slower. Fifth mile, fast. If you don't keep the pace, you're dead. So you got killed in it. That is the basic brief of the workout. A bunch of intervals, having to keep to a pace, and it alternates between a fast pace and a slightly less fast pace. And that's how the workout goes. If you guys want the full details of, and if you guys want to read it off, that's fine. I'm just not going to. Of what all of the paces are, watch the brief. It's on YouTube. It's in the app, all those things. So you can see these things and see what kind of pace that you want. And my only real note on this one for you people rowing, it is not 500-meter splits. It is not 500-meter splits. This happens every time we do it, and that's fine. They're like, how on earth do you keep a 124 per 500-meter pace? That's not what we're saying do at all. At the competitor level, we're saying a minute 24 for 400 meters. So just know that is the difference there, not what your erg is reading out to you. So what do you guys have for this one?
Don't set yourself up.
I would say
What was that?
I was saying something and then Joe came in. So I don't know if I was way behind or something. But
you're a little behind.
Kyle,
what you got?
Go ahead.
Yeah. I was going to say, pay attention to what Jared just said about there's a fast pace and there's a slightly less fast pace. There's not a slow pace.
Yeah, I was very careful not to say slow.
There's a less fast pace, and it's actually it's like a quote unquote rest pace, but it's not even really a rest pace. It's like a 5-second difference in your pace on the quote unquote rest miles. So it's still a fast pace. It's not a slow pace. This is not a jog. Like all of it is fast, but just certain miles are less fast. So with that in mind, I would say warm up. Like make sure that you're warming up. All of this is sprinting. Do not go into this cold because you will get injured, and then we will just tell you we told you to warm up. So anyway, all right, now
And the running competitor pace is ridiculously hard. I think once I can complete the harder to kill 5-miler at the ridiculous competitor standard I set of running, I will then be ready for the 5-minute mile. So it is a minute 18 per 400 in the rest pace. That's not terrible. Like if you're like, hey, go do like 6 to 8 400s at a minute 18, I could absolutely do it. But the rest pace is 123. So it's game over at that because you can't even like back off that much. So yeah, it's very, very near impossible, but I think I'm going to set that as a goal to complete before this BCT stuff is over.
And there's a difference between a dude doing a 400 at that pace and a female doing a 400 at that pace. I'm just saying.
Yeah, I think I didn't put it in here.
Nope. There's no different standard. So I've never survived this one. And I've always ran because I love to run 400s. I actually like to run 400s, especially with the rest that you have in between. But yeah, so today we actually did rowing. We did calories on the rower for, with other things for 40 minutes. And I got a blister just doing that because of just how moist, I hate that word, but how wet it is in the in the air here in Florida. And so all I can think about is like, if you're going to do this rowing, like maybe have some chalk, like and just chalk your hands before you.
For real? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm being serious. So
I've done that a lot. I did that a lot in Florida when I lived there and had a rower. Yeah, I did a lot of chalking of the hands for rowing.
So that's my tip. Chalk your hands if you're going to row if it's humid in the area.
There you go.
Prepare for the moist. That's what you gotta do.
Yes.
Don't set yourself up to be killed, is what I said once, but I'll say it again.
So you're saying do recruit like 100%. What do you mean by that?
Yeah, you might have to base it off of your mile standards and 400 meter standards to see how that is, so that you can sustain it, because the first mile or two might be decent. It might be challenging, but it's gonna go down because you're not getting a whole lot of rest in this. So
Yeah.
you should be nice and moist by the end of this.
Well, here's my challenge. So what Joe is basically saying is don't try and pick a level that's higher than your capability. And I kind of agree with that. It's also like Stairway to Heaven. The workout is built in such a way that you're supposed to start over, right? If you get killed the first time, I think is the rule, right? If you go through, you get killed, you can start back over to finish, but then that's how.
Not in like the first 2 miles or something. Which is
it's like within the first. If it's basically if you pick the wrong pace, it's a save. So like if you get killed, if you get killed in the first mile, add 5 seconds to your pace and start over. So that's a good way to find out. That's the official rule. But he's saying don't even take it that far. And,
or you can get trial by fire. Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. That's what I want. But my real recommendation isn't to be the antagonist to Joe's idea. It's just if you have completed this workout before, so this is more for the veteran athletes, just try and go a little bit faster in the pace. And I'm not saying if you completed established, go competitive this time. I mean, there's not a terrible difference there, but if you need to split the difference there, then do it. So just be pushing yourself in this workout. If you're like, yeah, I did rowing, I completed established last time, which is on the rower 136 and 141. Just try and make that a little bit faster, maybe 134 and 139 or something like that. Just make it a little bit faster pacing to push yourself if you've done it before and survived. So that's my official recommendation: is keep pushing yourself on this one. I might just do this one. Meet Yourself Saturdays are not programmed on BCT, just so everyone knows. And I might just have to go change the programming to make sure it's there.
Go until failure.
Yeah. 5 miles of 400 meters. I'm just curious to where I would die at the competitor pace. It'd probably be mile
that
2.
118.
I would get 1 mile, and maybe I might survive the second mile. I think that's my hypothesis of my best case scenario, surviving the second mile, and then third, I'm just out. Like the first one, I'd be like, no. So,
That's seconds.
but I want to do it because it's official. Once I can do this, I will be able to run a 5-minute mile. That's it. All right. That's all I got. You guys got anything else?
Nope.
It is deload week, so it's a great time to join.
Woohoo.
It is a deload week, which means we're going into a new wave of training. So it is an excellent time to join the training. Thanks, Joe. Shameless plug. For all of our athletes who have been around and you are sticking to the training, our hats off to you. Thank you guys so much for being a part of the training. We have sent out so many patches, Killing Comfort patches, Meet Yourself patches, shirts, black PR shirts, red PR shirts. So the athletes in the programming are crushing it, and they're only crushing it through their consistency. And so keep doing that, guys. I know it can be a grind towards the end of the year. We're getting into holiday stuff and all these things that make it easier to take your foot off the gas pedal, but don't let the call of comfort kill you. You got to kill that comfort. Anyone else who's interested in the training, go to garagegymathlete.com, sign up for a 14-day free trial, and find out if the training is for you. Maybe it's not. Maybe it is. It most likely is with our 19 different tracks that we have now. There's a place for everyone. So go to garagegymathlete.com and sign up for a free trial. But that's all I have for this one, guys. Until next time. Thanks for listening to the Garage Gym Athlete podcast. If you want to learn more, go to garagegymathlete.com. You can learn about our training. Let us send you a copy of our book, The Garage Gym Athlete, or you can even get featured on the Garage Gym Athlete podcast. Thanks for listening.